gentlemen, and welcome to episode. I have no idea what it is because we're time traveling right now. We filmed this.
We're in another dimension.
Yeah, we are. We're in the geekverse.
We went back to our regular recording studio, and now we're back in this recording studio.
Yeah, we actually drove 3 hours just to record in this, and got the same.
It's a great ambiance in here. We have
clothes.
our cat as well. It's fun to have a cat on the cast. He might make an appearance. Who knows?
I am the.
What are you? I am the wall-crawling menace, Dylan Moss.
I'm the pointer, Trav Snail.
Pointer.
You know, I thought, I don't know if I should do a spoiler one, but it is a spoilers review. It says that right in the title. This is just like, we should have. I got to be honest for our reviews. Geek vs. Spider-Verse. There's a lot of cross branding there.
They should put us in the movie.
Oh, 100%. We're the Spider-Man retrospective.
I'll be the Kelowna of Peter Parker.
It could be like, there's literally some meta references. It could be us talking about the Spider-Verse too, That's happened. No, never gonna happen.
That's crazy. Someday.
But so as a quick warning, if you click this and you go, the spoilers review, I haven't seen the movie yet. I want to know if I should see it. 1, go see it. But 2, if you want, go listen to our spoiler-free review if that's the way you want.
Normally we do them all in one, but because of reasons, we have to.
Yeah.
Go check out the
Just saw it early a little bit, great stuff. This will be the spoiler. So this is going to be a 3, 2, 1 as a... Now, you know what? I'll give like 2 sentences of how I felt. Then I'll give 2 sentences how I felt. And then we'll get into spoilers. I love this movie. Visually, it's stunning. There's lots of great Easter eggs. I feel like it's a movie for everybody. Humor's good, and there's actually some character moments. It's not just for the joke or for action. It kind of hits on all spectrum. And the non-spoilers, like I said, you go back that, I get into more detail. But that is it's like a 4-quadrant review. I feel like everyone can like this, whether you're a non-fan, whether you're a hardcore fan, whether you're a mom, a dad, a grandpa, whatever you are. I think you would highly enjoy this movie.
And I agree with all those things. Plus, it's a visually very unique movie, and for that reason, I think it's worth to go see in the theater. But also, the idea of the storyline leads to a lot of creative possibilities, and they took those creative possibilities. This movie is a lot of fun from start to finish for all levels of fandom. Please go see it. Let's get into some spoilers.
All right, spoilers. So there you go, 3, 2, 1. So I'd say because like Dylan said, we usually do them together. If you want the full overall nuance thoughts, what we thought of the film entirely, I'd say go non-spoilers because we'll still refer to stuff we like, but this will be getting into the spoiler heavy stuff.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start?
Let's talk about some of the villains actually, because that's something we kind of couldn't really talk so much about in the spoiler-free section.
Trying to do my Kingpin.
He's trying to do his best Kingpin. Kingpin is wild in this movie. Kingpin, obviously in the TV show we've talked about, is a very chunky guy. He's massive, but he's also 95% muscle. Yeah, so it's scary.
So this guy's...
I'm picturing that this guy is still 95% muscle, and he looks like a fucking thwomp from Mario with a face stuck on it. And at first it's pretty intense. Didn't know what I'd think, but after a couple scenes I was like, okay, I get it. It's kind of like a hyperbolized version of what Kingpin is. I thought it was hilarious.
It was really jarring for me because all the trailers we've seen have just been his face, and it's funny because they've shown his face, and you go back in the trailers, and it's all black behind him. So I just figured they were doing dramatic things of it's his face, and behind him they've put shadows just above his face. Yeah. But literally, it's not. It's his head is below his shoulders. His shoulders are so big they're above him, and it was really jarring at first. That's when it was the beginning of the movie where I thought it was a bit slower, but not in the fact of, I still thought I had good pacing. It's just it's your origin beats, right? I feel like every origin movie has that where you know what's going to happen. Even if you didn't know anything about Miles, okay, he's going to get bit by a spider, you're going to see the villain, you're gonna, it's all the kind of the 1-2 punch, you know what's coming. And then when that happened, not that I doubted the movie, but I was like, okay, so, I wasn't loving it the way I ended up near the end. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to like this look, because he is very... I feel like all of them have a different look, but I feel like he's cartoony, but he's very comedic, and he's very almost, when you said it with Mario, I almost remind of some of Tim Burton's creations too, A Nightmare Before Christmas.
It's kind of unsettling because of how, it's kind of creepy.
Because it's physically impossible. It's like those people you see that are men or women that get plastic surgery, remove their ribs or something, look like a Ken doll or a Barbie doll. Sure. There's a reason people don't do that, because they don't look like that, but that's what Kingpin was. But I really liked him. I liked that they could have easily just made him a generic villain, and they gave him it's a very quick motive, but they give him a motive.
Yeah,
Sometimes in animated shows and stuff they don't, because it's just, oh, it's a cartoon, it's for kids.
Yeah,
whatever.
that's a good point. I mean, we watched all of the animated show, and he's like in every season, he's probably the most recurring of the villains. And he never, you never really get much backstory on him. He's kind of just an evil guy behind the scenes, which is fine. It's awesome for the sake of that show. But yeah, in this movie they bring up Vanessa and his son as well, and it's kind of quick, but it establishes like I guess why he's trying to create this multiverse, and like why he's trying to make this. He's not doing it to destroy the world, but he's just a guy who doesn't care if it destroys the world. All he wants is Vanessa back. And I'm really curious how that's going to go off for people who, like, for example, haven't seen the Daredevil TV show and don't know about Kingpin and Vanessa, like, don't know who the Vanessa character is, because if not, it might just kind of feel like something that's tacked on. Maybe I'm curious what people think of it who don't know who Vanessa is.
I feel like it's just enough that even if you don't care about Vanessa, you just go, okay.
I mean, it's easy enough to understand.
Yeah, right? I think it's going to motivation, like, okay, his wife was in love with him, had a kid, because they do this nice little montage where they show them all happy in pictures, like they show him and Vanessa.
Yeah, it's really cool as he's like clicking his pen and each time it cuts to a new snapshot of different times in their life.
Yeah, that was really cool, and I think it's enough to know, okay, this woman fell in love with this man and turned out he was a mobster, because if you're listening to spoilers, and you did, if you're listening to spoilers...
Vince, come on.
And if you're listening to spoilers and you didn't see the movie, then that's up to you. But
we might get a cat on video. Oh, hey Vince.
Nice. Are these real?
That's my water, friend.
What are these?
Those are probably just fake cherries.
Are they fake?
They might be real.
Yeah.
They kind of look bruised.
Hopefully Vincent doesn't eat this. But what was I saying? Way to go, Vincent. But anyways, we're back. We're talking about Kingpin and his family. So I think they do a good enough job just to lay down, okay, she fell in love with this guy. He's a monster, and then he runs away. And I think, like I said, I like that because I almost wasn't expecting no motivation. I just was expecting, all because that's why we love the animated series.
We've almost been conditioned to have that just from every time we've seen Kingpin on the big screen. Mm-hmm. It's like it's almost as if it's something they don't have time to do. Whereas in a TV show, like you almost better be doing that, or else what are you doing with your time?
And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to add
Well,
on him. He was funny, but the pen clicking thing I really like because it was a nice little touch, and obviously one point he gets. Oh, that's what I was gonna say for people. If you're just listening along, there's non spoilers. Is what happens is he's fighting with Chris Pine's Spider-Man, like the OG Spider-Man in this universe, he's fighting with them, and then his wife and child walk in on him, like kind of, and they even had some blood on Kingpin bleeding from his lip, which I was surprised. He's a little bloodied up, and he's fighting Spider-Man, and then she's like, "What are you doing?" So that's the big reveal for them. So just in case anyone's following along but didn't see the movie, for
and then reason. Obviously Kingpin ends up killing Peter Parker in this movie.
Oh yeah, big time. He's got 95% muscle to crush that chest.
One thunderous earthquake.
He did use 2 fists though.
Yeah, kind of like Wreck-It Ralph.
He did, yeah. And Miles withstood that, so But then again, actually, Peter also already had all that stuff on him as well too. So. Yeah,
no, that's true. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like Kingpin, kind of at the end. I mean, I know we're just jumping to something right now, but Miles, Kingpin had Miles dead to rights. I don't know why he stopped fighting him. He had him, and then Miles just gave him like a minute to like think of some way out of there. Kind of. I don't know. I don't really know what he was thinking there because he had already killed one Spider-Man, and he mentioned that he will do it again.
Are you saying between this and Spider-Man: Homecoming, Spider-Man movies have a problem with villains? They're just beating themselves pretty much. Spider-Man never beats them.
Yeah, it's kind of classic.
It's a reoccurring thing, I should.
But he at least gets one Peter Parker kill in this movie. That's more than any other Kingpins I know have.
I believe so, yeah. Kingpin's usually pretty unsuccessful. I want to talk about Liv Octavius. Great reveal. She's an alternate dimension, Octavius version, which is there's actually one version of Octavius that he went into Peter Parker's body and became Spider-Man, and Superior Spider-Man. Fans were not a big fan of that.
I don't think I sound like a fan of that.
No, so Octavius, obviously he's one of your bigger Spider-Man characters. So if you're gonna have alternate dimensions, you're gonna use that character. I feel like, and they used it well. I had an idea just because of her being a scientist, and I knew there was a female Doc Ock out there, but the reveal of it is done very well.
Yeah,
And another
I
moment,
didn't see it coming.
yeah, and another moment where like it's not scary, but it feels more of that adult kid where she has him in the chair and he's just saying stuff, and then you can see even with Spider-Man because they have their eyes move because the animated movie. He's like slowly starting to figure out, and then when she just whips that jacket off, and he's like, people wouldn't happen to call you Doc Ock here, would they? And then she's like, I'm just so glad to see another Spider-Man, then goes to kill him. Like, it was really well done.
Yeah.
Like, her and Pravich again, too, they had some moments that were just very cinematic, whether it's live action or anime, just some of the best moments I've had in movies this year of just feeling enthralled, like that reveal. That was great. She was a fun
It was a
character.
fantastic reveal. I've never seen this version of Dr. Octavius. And yeah, first of all, I love her look. Like, instead of the classic metal mechanical arms that Doc Ock has, these are kind of more like, I guess they're kind of like turquoise test tubes, and it almost looks like water is like moving through them. They kind of have like this wave effect to them. So a super cool look, and like obviously the goggles are really cool. She kind of has like the crazy hair.
Yeah, the hair is cool.
And yeah, like that first action scene with her as they're Miles is first learning how to use the web slinger, and they're going through the forest, and she's just cutting down trees, knocking stuff out of the way until they find Gwen Stacy. Yeah, it was a really fun take on the character, and I hope we see it again, or I hope we like see more of that down the road. That was a really fun version of the character.
Yeah, because in comics, even then, like, she's a little bit different, but still the metal aspect, and I like what they did with her, because I knew one existed. Oh, of course, there's her boy Ben Reilly. I knew one existed, but I liked what they did here. It felt, even if it did, they expanded on that idea. And yeah, even the tubes, when they were moving, they had like sound effects to them, and they were crunching, and it's another second Spider-Man thing in a row where they kept Doc Ock a secret, like, we didn't know anything about that because
game either. Yeah.
In the game and in these trailers, they had shown that sequence of them in that forest like area, like training quite a few times, and in that's the sequence where Lady Doc.
Yeah, they almost made it look like that was just when they went to practice instead of them running away.
But it's a whole big set piece. That's where I like that. They could have easily, in any trailer, they could have easily just been like, "Oh, Doc Ock," and like just revealed that. But little things like that, and I love that set piece. It was really good. And also you have like the Peter who's out of shape. You have Miles who's not trained that well. So it was a good showcase to introduce, which we're not talking about the heroes yet, but to introduce Gwen Stacy because those two is kind of on the higher level right now because Peter's out of shape and she just like comes in there and yeah, she was done very well. And she wasn't she was a goon, but she wasn't a full-on goon. Like there's one moment where Fiska's get my collider running, and he walks away and she's like, "Our collider." So you felt like classic Doc Ock, right? Where it felt like yeah, she's a goon, but she's still like she has her own way, what she wants to do.
You get the feeling that like she'll break away someday when she has what she needs or has the power.
And that's the most exciting thing. We were talking about this all the way in the car to there, and that's what like we talk about this on the podcast all the time with DC doing the Joker movie and things like this, where when you don't have to worry about an MCU in a big universe, you can kind of play this like trickery and just this mind-bending stuff. And whether it is her coming back in a sequel or just more different versions, like obviously he was in this movie a lot smaller, but they went with the ultimate version of Green Goblin of like he's just an actual goblin.
Yeah, that was cool to see. Yeah. That was fun.
I'm not a fan of that version of the Goblin, but it worked in this movie because he's in it so little and whatnot. But I've never been a big fan of I'm an actual goblin, but like it worked. I liked it.
I like that he still had like the bombs, the little goblin bombs that he was throwing on, and those were fun because they as he was throwing them around, they had like the boom effect that would pop up in the little comic book text. So yeah, he was. It was a fun take on the character because like I can't really think of other times where I see like Spider-Man versus just some gigantic enemy. Normally it's kind of like humanoid-based characters, right? Yeah. Because even Rhino is just like Kingpin size.
Pretty much, I think we've only gone that in Infinity War recently with like Thanos and some of his alien dudes, right? Other than that, they've always been like the Vulture, this and that.
Well, even those guys are like not that much bigger than Peter.
Thanos is pretty big.
But he's not as big as his Goblin relative to Peter.
Fair enough.
This is like giant man.
I actually don't know if anyone's. Yeah, I was gonna say you'd have to get Scott.
So I really like the look, and I think if I had to pick one, I would probably take Norman Osborn on the flyer.
Yeah.
Next to Hobgoblin preferably.
But maybe we'll get that. I hope we get Hobgoblin in this movie. I think Hobgoblin fits so well visually.
Yeah, just the idea of like what he would look like is exciting.
Because there's some
and the play of like who would he be,
Yeah,
There's gotta be someone.
Oh yeah, and there's a sneaking suspicion that I feel like we're not gonna get any Goblin's live action anytime soon, just because both the Tobey and Garfield one did that. So I feel like that'd be a good place. And when you really think about it, we had Fisk, we had Scorpion, we had Prowler, we had Doc Ock, we had Green Goblin, and then we had Tombstone. And there's probably another one I might think of, but that's 6, and they're all used really well. And one like Tombstone, you and I both felt that we could have won a bit more.
Yeah, it's almost like maybe they just wanted to introduce him, get him in this world, and then use him down the line. And one of those things where, oh, I recognize that guy, and he has like a bigger role. But I mean, I don't know how big of a role he'd really get, but I don't even recall a fighting scene of him really. Like, he got punched out by Gwen Stacy, and then I think he was gone.
Well, yeah, and he had that little interaction with Doc Ock. Remember, he pulled the guns on her and she strangled him. Yeah, but that's thing where I said
it was still like, as you said, like it's better than just some random bodyguard. It's fun to have a character. I mean, I don't know how many people would recognize that as Tombstone. Obviously, you need to be a little bit of a fan to understand that or recognize him, but it was still fun to see him as opposed to just bodyguard number 3.
Well, yeah, and I liked that because it was just another thing where, of course, I want more, but that's just us as fans, as myself, comic fan, and us both as fans of the animated series, where we come from, where Tombstone at one point got 2 episodes, and you can do that in a show where you have like 60 episodes. So for me, I really appreciated that. I really like there's stuff like I've always talked about, and other fans talked about. It's a smaller reference, but then at the beginning of Justice League, Batman's just taking on this guy robbing a bank. He's nobody. He's just a guy, and people always be like, why isn't that Claw King? Why isn't that somebody? And I like that of like, you know what, maybe they don't have any plans with Tombstone, but if this is just some goon, make it Tombstone, and there he is. And then he could pop up again in the future. He was in this movie, but they teased Hammerhead. He was on the poster, so there's a chance he could come back. But that's the thing, I like that. Obviously, this is an animated world, so it feels a bit different, but there are so many villains, but I thought they all got a moment. Obviously, they're not all like deep and have big motivations, but they'll have like a fun fan moment. Other than I'd say, Tombstone didn't really get one, but just seeing that silver hair up there, like I liked it. It was good. And Scorpion, I thought was a fun adaptation. Yeah, the look was off, but I grew to like it in this universe, and I like that they made him Spanish, and they even in the speech bubbles are like boom, and then translated in Spanish.
I like
that was a fun take on it.
Scorpion, he's weird looking, but I thought it was a fun, different take on the character because he actually looks more like a fusion between a man and a scorpion as opposed to a guy that has like some animatronics put on him, and that's kind of fun. And I like the little battle scene between him and Penny Parker because I felt like it was a good like balance between the two, right? Like they kind of are like similar fighting types, I guess.
That house battle scene, Anime's house, was fantastic. That was one of those moments.
Yeah, that was really, really cool.
Yeah, that was one of those moments where there's the only times I thought it's got as close as live action was that moment in Age of Ultron when they're finding all the Ultron bolts and they're going around, they're all spinning. Yeah. But it's like when you watch that, it's tough because you're like, oh, it's all clearly CGI and some stuff doesn't look real. But that's the great thing with animation is, it's not live action and it's not. Of course, the animation, it's easier, but it has the advantage. It doesn't take you out because everything looks the same, right? Yeah. It's never Chris Evans against like 2 robots that clearly aren't there. It all looks like that, so it never takes you out.
I mean, it's
that house scene is so much fun.
It's a testament to them as well because as you said, I can't remember if it was in this or the spoiler-free review, but you said that the characters have different kind of art styles to them. Like obviously Penny Parker, sort of a little more like anime inspired.
Yeah, the manga.
Yeah, and then Spider-Pig is kind of more cartoony.
Yeah,
so they even have different styles, but even within that and like the different types of looking villains, like it all fits really well into that scene in particular where you never really feel like, oh, that character doesn't belong in there.
Yeah. I want to talk about Prowler because I love Prowler in this. I've never been a huge fan of Prowler. Obviously, in Miles Morales' story.
Look. Oh, yeah, it's so cool.
In Miles Morales' story, he's important. He's his uncle. They did a different route where Prowler, to me, has always been more like he's a thief. He gets a Spider-Man accident and gets Miles. In this one, he's more of a pure antagonist until he knows that it's Miles under the mask. But he seems like an evil dude, and he seems like he knows. It's not one of these situations where sympathetic villain. He seems like he knows what Fisk's up to, and I guess I would have liked a bit more on that a little bit to know.
I guess just kind of just felt like he was turning a blind eye. I feel like because you have that scene of him with Miles, it just seems so genuine. Like you feel like he's a good guy.
Yeah. So even one.
But you're right that you kind of have to insinuate a little bit.
Yeah. Even if one at the end, I guess you can't do that because you don't want Kingpin to know he's Miles. But something maybe before he dies. Like, he kept saying, like, you're on the right path, keep going that way. Even if he would have just said that guy was on the wrong path. Like, there's a lot of insinuation with that character, which is fine. But I would have liked just a few more lines. I thought Mahershala did a great job voice acting. But he was scary as hell. Like, when they it's the first time the first Peter Parker dies, and they send the Prowler after Miles. He's scary whether you're getting his POV and you see he has like a predator like sensor where he's seeing things in like thermal, but then it was the score, and every time he would quick look at the camera, there'd be like dinosaur sounds or animal sounds. And like I said, I'm not usually frightened. I said this in the non-spoilers. I'm not usually frightened of animated characters, but he did it, and this made me. It wouldn't happen because it's the way movies are, but I legitimately just want to see this exact ripped copy in live action movies. And the costume was good, he was good, and it might be my favorite part of the movie because anytime he was on, I was worried.
It was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, especially he could have just been a throwaway, he's the.
Well, in the trailer, he's like, he looks cool, and I was curious who this character is.
Yeah.
So it's nice that was kind of the one that has the most ties to, or that's the one that really has a tie to the main character, because obviously, Kingpin isn't at this point in time. He's not really related to Miles in any way.
No.
He's connected to the Peter Parkers that we've seen before. So yeah, that was a really nice connection because I kind of forgot that Prowler was related to Miles because I haven't seen that in other. I mean, this is the only second Miles I've seen. So yeah, I'm definitely on the Prowler hype train now, especially after that letdown that was the animated show. But maybe some of that was because it was a season finale. Why is that a season finale? Who knows? But no, yeah, I love his look. The claws, anytime, this is like the first thing you see in any scene, he like creeps him around a corner or something, and it kind of just it instantly puts in that fear of it's there he is.
Like the scene once Miles has been Spider-Man for a little bit, and he's writing that note to his uncle, and they kind of make it seem like it's his uncle coming home, and he's just a black shadow, and he's just moving, and then under the window are his claws, and you're like, oh man, and then Miles clues in, and he goes invisible there for a bit. But yeah, Prowler, I was excited to see him, and because I'd seen the trailer, he looked good, but I was not expecting that, so that was really well done. I'm trying to think, is there any other villain we haven't...
I think we tackled the villains.
Yeah, I feel like we're missing somebody, but I'm sure they'll come up. Let's talk about all the Spider people, because I want to start with the very first Spider-Man, the Spider-Man that's in this world that dies, and it's kind of the one that inspires Miles Morales. Chris
and it's
Pine.
Gwen Stacy's tie. That's the person she lost, right?
Oh, I'm talking about the very first Chris Pine one.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that the one related to Gwen Stacy?
No, Gwen's is a different one.
Just some other random.
Yeah,
I thought it was. Are you sure?
No, I'm positive because in her universe, Peter turns into the lizard. Remember I was telling you this last night or in the car ride?
But she didn't say that in the movie.
They show it. At one point, they show shadows of her fighting a lizard. She punches him. He falls to the ground. And it's Peter dead, and that's why
I totally missed.
Oh yeah, no. So yeah. See, we'll start going six because it's on her. So when they do her little issue, which. Such a great way to introduce every new character because this movie has a bunch of different Spider people. How are you going to keep people up, especially mainstream people? Boom, every time there is, they throw out an issue of a comic book and they're like, this is my story, And they're like, this is the last time you'll hear about this. And that was a recurring joke, like, oh, this is the final story. But yeah, so what it is, she gets bit by the spider and they show her in the shadows fighting Lizard, and I guess she kills Peter. Like, it's kind of similar way it goes in the comics, but in this movie she kills Peter, and that was her best friend, and like I assume maybe they could have been some some girlfriend boyfriend down the line, but yeah, so she killed Peter, and that's why she doesn't want people close to her because she lost one of her best friends. So yeah, Chris Pine is a different Spider-Man than the one she loses. So then she gets brought to this universe. That's the one plot hole which I need to watch again. So she's in the school with Miles. They're talking. And they made it clear very early on that she's hiding something. She lies about her name. And I think that people like us know, okay, this is Gwen Stacy, Spider-Gwen from the other universe. But then what happens is, this is where I need to watch because maybe they said the collider was tested earlier. But the way they play in the movie, that the collider was tested for the very first time after we were introduced to Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
So it's weird that she was already in the school. And she was just kind of living a normal life in the school, which I thought was kind of weird. No parents, no background, anything like that. And then two... the whole, after that it's revealed, she's glitching all the time. That's hurting her like the other Spider-Men or Spider people. But then in the school, I just feel like her being a student, just sitting there in class, is very risky when she could just glitch at any time. Maybe there's something like, maybe it's when they lose their powers. Yeah. I don't know, but
there's also some, like, when any of the Spider people first see each other, they get, like, both get the spider sense against each other, and Gwen and Miles didn't have that in the school at all.
Well, he wasn't Spider-Man yet, right? He didn't get bit. Oh no.
Yeah, he was, because he had like ripped her hair out because of the spider power.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, he was still developing the powers at that point, still infusing into his body.
Maybe she got it, but he didn't. But I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like they tried to play that as a secret, and I don't know. I like it works because they want to have that personal relationship with Miles and her. I'm glad, even though I know it's happened in other comic books, I'm glad they didn't end up being romantic or kiss. It could happen down the line, I think, but as a hardcore Peter Gwen fan,
I think there's enough going on in this movie.
Yeah. But I'm, as a hardcore Peter Gwen fan, I've always been a little weirded out when Gwen and Miles are together, just because it's like it's alternate universes getting together. It's unnatural, But Haley Steinfeld, she did a really good job. I think there's a good reason of why she's one of the ones that they're saying they want to spin off. I think with if they can get into the Peter being Lizard, and with her world, you can get more of those, female Doc Ocks. You can get more spins on classic villains, and just again, she just has a cool look,
really cool.
That costume is phenomenal. I'm very mad at Sony. Yeah, they're not making men versions of the Spider-Gwen hoodie. I was very mad about that. I would buy one. So yeah, great character. I thought very much like how Miles is having a good year. I think she's gonna blow up in the next few years. So
yeah, I hope so. I mean, she's a fun character and one that I've seen a couple renditions of, but nothing to this level. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I loved her look, and you bring up a good point with that story point. I was maybe a little confused as well. I thought at first the Gwen that he had met at the school was like a Gwen from his universe, one that didn't have powers, and then he was talking with another one, but then that doesn't seem like that is the continuity based on what they say later.
So that's, maybe...
And obviously her hair as well.
Yeah, maybe we missed the line where Kingpin or Doc Ock said, last time we tested it. So I'm sure there might be a way to say, okay, she got here, but it was just something that...
Or maybe there's something else, right? Because at the very end of the movie, it seems like she is the connection for this verse still being open somehow, and she has control of it. So maybe she accidentally... I don't know. I don't know what the full story... Maybe it's one of those things that in retrospect in a future movie, when we get Spider-Gwen movie, it'll all make sense.
Or even a rewatch, we could have missed something.
It's possible. I already missed her fighting lizards. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. But now to go back to the very first Spider-Man, the Peter Parker one in this universe, which is Chris Pine. I thought that was done really well. Obviously, it's talking about the other Peter Parker, but I liked how their lives were so different. This is a Peter Parker that, Uncle Ben passed away, some stuff happened to him. But it seemed almost like that Spider-Verse one, his life worked out a lot better. Yeah. He was married to MJ, Aunt May was happy. It seemed like he was maybe on the more wealthier side because he has a whole bat spider cave going on. Yeah. So I liked that. I like Chris Pine's voicing. It sounded a lot like him, so I was like, I think that is. And I think he just, he was very confident, but at the same time I like that. He was not like the Armored Spider-Man. He never came off as a dick. He was confident, but he still just felt like
he was there.
Spider-Man.
He was He offered his help to Miles, and even though he didn't get the chance to do that, it was just that calm demeanor and peaceful presence that inspired Miles in the first place. When he was obviously really scared when he was stumbled upon this giant fight between Green Goblin and Spider-Man in the cave.
Took me for a while, right, when they took off his mask, he was blonde, because I'm not used to, other than Ben Reilly, seeing a Peter Parker blonde. It was,
I think I wasn't so shocked because I just saw Ben Reilly a couple weeks ago for the first time, so now there's been a lot of Spider-Versing going on in my life in the last couple of weeks. So.
But yeah, for what we got of him, it was small. I liked that Spider-Man. I feel like
I thought it was a great way to start the movie off, and it was obviously you don't
get the classic Spider-Man that we would almost
it's the one that you've seen before. I mean, it's not the same. Obviously, he's a lot more cool than a Toby, for example. But, But it was a good way to connect the viewers who may not know about who Miles Morales is with with this current storyline. So I thought it was well done. I like that it was because obviously in the trailer you see that scene where they're at Peter Parker's grave, but I don't really analyze trailers too hard. I try not to, at least, so I can go in with some surprise. And I didn't expect them to go down this path. So it was a fun storyline, and it was cool that you see at one point Mary Jane is giving a speech to the people, and it kind of a send off, a funeral, if you will. And Miles is in the audience, and then you see later that the other Peter B. Parker is up on the roof watching that as well. So.
And I love that line when they're all she's all of you can be Spider-Man. And he's I will be Spider-Man. And the person beside him, I think it's a hypothetical. I don't think it's.
I don't think she means you.
Yeah. There's some good little barbs there. And that Spider-Man game is a great little thing because it started off very much you've seen the trailers when it's I was a popsicle and I was that. He's going through all his accomplishments. And then at one point he's and then this also happened. And they flash to Spider-Man 3. It's the same song. He does the finger guns. He does this. He's but we don't talk about that. That was fantastic. That won me over right there.
Great
But
reference.
that was a great way. I want to talk about, before I was talk about the other Spider-Man, because this Spider-Man, the other Peter Parker, his life not good. He's completely they make him overweight, which they make lots of jokes of.
Yeah.
He's broken up from MJ. Aunt May has passed away. Him and MJ broke up because he didn't want kids. So he's just like, and he's broke. So this is like even worse than usual down and out Peter. And that's where I said this in the non-spoilers, but now I'm fully on board with Jake Johnson, because in the trailers before, when it's supposed to be like the Chris Pine Spider-Man that I thought he was portraying, I'm like, I don't know if I like Jake Johnson's voice as this type of. Jake Johnson, I mean, gives off what this Peter Parker is, kind of a slacker, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
the loserish guy.
Exactly. Like the other two things I know him from, and New Girl is very similar to how his character is in that show. And then in Tag, he's just like a stoner.
Yeah. So he's always playing that. So
it did seem weird at first, casting wise, but it makes total sense now. And yeah, I thought it was perfect. And I'm a big fan of him in those other two things I just mentioned. So it was a fun version of the character, and because that's something that like you'll never really see that in live action, right? Like you'll see,
I know,
like the most you'll get that is like Spider-Man 3 when he's like has that kind of edgy face and he's playing the piano and shit. But you're not really gonna see this type of like kind of depressed Spider-Man, I don't think. So yeah, that was fun, and it was cool to see his journey throughout the movie as well, because him and Miles meet really early on, and then they kind of do some stuff, and then eventually meet Gwen, and then they meet the other characters later. But those two have a lot of time together, and their development is pretty fun, because they're kind of inspiring each other and
convincing Peter he might want kids after all.
Yeah,
he's like, I think I want to be a dad. No, I don't.
Yeah,
maybe.
Like that scene at the end of the movie where it's kind of like all of them back in their home worlds. Yeah, you see this Peter, and he shows up in a suit with some flowers up to MJ's place, and like that scene could be kind of cheesy. It could come off cheesy, but because they built it up really well, it was a good send off for the character, and I'm sure he'll be back in Spider-Verse. I don't know if he'll be as highlighted as he was in this movie, but even if this was like his movie that like where you really get that development, I think they did a really good job with it.
Well, yeah, and the shout out to Jake Johnson was the two scenes that voice acting you can say is easy, but it's not. You gotta still just use your voice to portray the emotion you're going through. And I really, as far as on an emotional standpoint, I really enjoyed the scene where he's telling Miles he can't come with them. They made the decision, they're fighting.
Yeah, that was a great scene.
That was gonna be webs him up. He's like, go invisible, and use your venom burst on me, and he just can't.
And so everyone's outside the window, and just kind of commenting on it like that. That was a fantastic scene.
And the other scene I like too is when at the end everyone's gone and Peter sees that Kingpin's still there, and he goes to fight him, and then Miles is like telling him he has to go, and Miles just literally shoves him, holds him like, you gotta go, man. And then it's the reverse, because later on when Miles is like saying, how do I know when I can be Spider-Man, they flip that on his head, because Peter's scarred in this moment, like, well, how could I not screw up again this time? And those two scenes back to back, they really bond. Like, all the characters got little moments, but I don't think much of them grew like Miles and Peter did. Those were
it's focused on those two,
Like even Gwen Stacy, I feel like Gwen Stacy's more there to be the badass of
it's
the
more
movie.
Definitely and setting her up as like down
her move. Like they've announced they're making her own movie, so it makes sense. But yeah, those two, and Jake Johnson, that's what I'm highlighting, is he, for a guy to me that doesn't do much dramatic acting, he was dramatic in those moments, and that made me believe, oh, this was a guy who used to be like great Spider-Man, who was in all his glory, and this is kind of down on. He did a great job, so he really sold me there. Let's talk about the three jokester ones before we get into Miles. Sure. Penny Parker, I do not have very much experience with. I thought they used her very well, whether it was kind of making some anime like manga jokes, and just even then they did like a nice little arc with her to a robot. She loses that.
Yeah, that was an emotional scene with Scorpion. I really liked like her first action scene is like just kind of ripped out of an anime where it's like the background is just like one color and like the
going really fast.
The motion, so I thought they did that perfectly, and I think it's a funny character because she's pretty much just like the same style as like as I was saying, Diva from Overwatch. And I don't know if they were like had that in mind, and like people really, that's like kind of, it's like one of the main mascots from Overwatch, a very popular game. So I like that was kind of fun seeing the girl and the mech, and she's kind of like inside she's just like eating candy and stuff and just having a fun time. I had a lot of fun with that character, and like I said, I like that little battle with her and Scorpion. I think that was they were like pretty evenly matched. That was pretty cool to see. Yeah. And just like a really off the wall kind of character, right? So that was cool. And I'm curious how that character will, if that character will like come back much.
Well,
I could see her popping up here or there, and they need some help to save the day or something. But
Yeah.
obviously never. I don't think they'll ever really have a movie of just her. But
Well, they have said that like the Spider-Gwen movie will feature her and other female heroes, so I could see them integrating
Cool.
her in that. I think I can't remember. It's a mix. If I mentioned this in non-spoilers or spoilers, but if I did, I apologize. Spider-Pig, not annoying in this movie. They could have overdone it, but I thought he was just right.
Mhm.
I love this fighting scene at the end where he's just going full Looney Tunes and he's just pulling like the hammer out of his thing. Like, this will fit in your pocket. So good, but used really well. He's literally just a Looney Tune character in a kind of CG animated whatever the style is, and it fit. It worked. He was very funny. He got some good one-liners, and again, he was sometimes in the background a lot, which worked. It wasn't just in your face like, oh, Spider-Pig, he's just gonna joke. Like, he is jokey, but they're spaced out.
He's used the least out of all of them.
And even then too, he does have some emotional stuff when they're all getting sent off. He's not just a joke the complete time. Most of the time he is, but still, they use him very well.
Yeah, no, it's just kind of that's definitely the most like WTF of all of them here.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know, it was fun to see. I don't have much more to say on him.
What do you think about Noir Spider-Man? Because other than seeing a
yeah.
costume of him in the PS4 one, this is your first experience with
Noir Spider-Man. I totally forgot until a couple weeks ago or something that it was Nick Cage who was doing the voice for it, and I didn't really know what to expect because I feel like in the trailer, Spider-Pig has a couple good one-liners, but I feel like Penny and Noir don't really have anything in the trailer.
Nick Cage goes, "Hi, Spider-Man."
You just get to see them quickly. But yeah, Noir Spider-Man is so funny. Like every single line, they just nailed it perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
Like obviously he's kind of like an old timey, so like all of his phrases are like out of date and.
Come here, whippersnappers, like that type of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's really funny and like there's what is the scene with the where he's like playing the piano like just
it's in the end credits. So in the end credits they show because Gwen Stacy's in a band, so they show like her drumming and a bunch of things. And they show like Peter, one of the Peters, like doing some stuff, and then they show like him on stage doing stuff, and it's all like family opera. Like it's really dark,
really
and depressing.
dramatic,
Yeah, and it's like him on the piano, his capes up, and that was a great thing. Like it's not even windy, and he's just like, wind goes everywhere around me, and it smells like rain. And then Peter's like, what is he talking about? Like, it's like I don't know if they had Nick Cage in mind even before the movie.
Nick Cage was perfect.
It was perfect. And if not, then they wrote it. This is a really weird character. Who can we get? Like the way, if you like the way how weird Nick Cage is as a person, that's exactly what Noir Spider-Man is. My favorite line in the entire movie is because they almost play him off too. Like he's kind of like a comedic Batman in a sense, a parody of that. Like he's very dark and brooding Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
So all the stuff he says is very dark, very depressing. At one point he just says, "Sometimes I light a match and let it burn my fingertips just to feel something." And I was losing it. And like that's a character I need to see more. Do I need a whole movie? I would say yes, but even then I want like him to come back. And now there's a chance to see what he could, but I felt everything he said, and maybe that's the reason why it works, because I felt like he was used just the right amount as well.
Yeah.
But sparingly, I'd still love more of him. But he was fantastic. He was just a completely different sense of humor. Other people were quippy or very over the top. Spider-Pig, that to me is like the most like this is for the adult. Like kids are gonna think he might be cool, but this is like throwing like depression one-liners, this and that. His bit with the Rubik's Cube was great. Like, is this color white? No, it's blue. Is this color white? No, it's green. Is this color white? And then at the end, like, so long, friends. I'm taking this cube with me. And then he just bounces off. He was great. Like I said, maybe it's because he's used sparingly, but I want to see a lot more of this character. Like, he just was one-liner after one-liner. Just fantastic.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, obviously, it's focused on the Miles, Peter, and Gwen, but those three were really fun in the moments that they had, and it just made for like some obviously that apartment fight scene, but also the fight scene at the end in I always forget
the Collider.
In the Collider,
so good.
The Collider room, which is just like as you said, a visual smorgasbord, and all of them kind of have their little touches when they're all going back in. And they have like a burst of color, and Noir is just like this black and white color that spins out. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah,
I want to show on that before we get to Mouse because I might forget. Yeah, that I was for this in the non-spoilers. The last half an hour, 15 minutes of the movie is great. Like when the Collider's going berserk, and in the background they're fighting, but it's constantly changing colors and shapes, and there's buildings, and at one point there's just like a massive video game controller going around. Like the visuals in this movie are stunning. Not even from just the normal world, like the scene before that when Miles is becoming Spider-Man, like that swing scene's great. We'd seen previously in the trailer, but when we get into the Collider stuff, I knew it was going to be a visually stunning movie. But this was just like I was looking at it, I was like, I feel like this would just be such a headache to animate and map out. Like, it was just phenomenal. And that was even just for a visual standpoint, this movie could have been silent and it would have been worth every penny you paid for, because it was fantastic. And not even just the fight scenes, just the visuals at the end were, it was great. It was,
it kind of feels like
indescribable, breathtaking.
Slight spoiler for the Spider-Man game, but it feels like this scene where you get poisoned by Scorpion, and you go into like this other realm where you're kind of jumping around, just floating platforms in the sky and fighting various scorpions.
Yeah,
it felt kind of like that in a way. Like it's just like another realm. So it's a lot to conceive, but it was fun to see for sure. And there's just like trains like flying through the sky.
LaGuerta from Dexter was
LaGuerta.
So yeah, let's talk about Miles. Obviously, he's the main character of this movie. Like you said, you only have getting to know him now at the video game. What did you think about him as the lead in this?
I really liked it. I think it was. I think I have one kind of problem with it, and it was just down to like just the length of time that this movie takes place over.
Yeah, very quick.
Yeah, like from the very start of the story to the very end is really like it's like a couple of days or something. Yeah. So like the timeline for Miles getting bit by the spider, like learning how to do stuff, and then like going ham, like full power with all of his different powers at the very
flawlessly,
end. Yeah, flawlessly. Like it's a little quick to be believable, and there's kind of like this montage sequence where he's getting inspired, and then he's out there, he's practicing all of his moves, and then he goes and fights Kingpin, and he has all of it on lock. So I felt like it was a bit too fast for it to be like fully believable. But I really like it's such a different take. Obviously, you're so used to the classic, Uncle Ben either dies or has been dead already, and he's just hanging out with Aunt May. But it's cool to see Miles and the relationship he has with his parents. His mom's like pretty supportive of him and kind of protective, whereas his dad's kind of more tough on him and maybe wants to show some dominance and be controlling by make him a little embarrassed at school, as obviously you can see in the trailer. Yeah. In a couple of the trailer scenes. But yeah, I think it was a fun character. You see that he has like his kind of hacker buddy as well that Peter Parker has in Homecoming.
Guy in the chair.
And he reveals to him at the end that he is Spider-Man.
Yeah,
so
very Homecoming-esque.
Yeah, that'll be fun to see how that relationship plays off. But yeah, I like the story. I think it was a good one of him trying to build up his confidence, and the way they do that alongside Peter B. Parker is I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty well done. It's a fun story. I'm curious to see more of Miles once he's been in the suit for some time, because this does feel, in retrospect, it does feel like kind of like a pretty rushed origin story in terms of like how much, like a lot goes on in this movie. There's a lot of characters than you're used to in a Spider-Man movie, and for it to also be his origin is pretty intense. But I like that it's kind of like the full circle moment at the very ending where it's like, and here's my story, and he whips down his comic book right at the end. It was kind of a good way to tie up that narrative device, I guess, that they were using.
As Norris Berman said, this is a dark origin story.
Yeah.
That was good. Yeah, I really like, because obviously the dynamics with Miles are much more different. He has his parents. His uncle has a much different story than Peter Parker's. Peter Parker's uncle is the full do-gooder, Tom Hanks, Mr. Nice Guy. Even in the comics where Miles' uncle isn't like, like this, to kill him or anything like that, he's still a criminal most of the time, so it's like same thing where it's a complete 180 on Uncle Ben. I liked the relationship with his parents. His mom is not in it that much, but yeah, she's supportive. His dad is tough on him, but it's more worrisome because they implied a few times, but clearly he knows that his brother has gone down a path that he doesn't want for Miles, and I think that's kind of it, where he's tough on him to try to get him away from that. Maybe sometimes he's too tough, but he's seeing someone he loves, and he talks about in the movie like drift away, and he doesn't want that to happen to them, and he doesn't want him to go down that path. Like I said, they didn't get fully in that, but that's kind of what I inferred to it. And Miles is a fun character. Spider-Man in general are always just going to be fun and quippy, but I felt that always Miles, he had a bit more of a childlike humor, whereas Peter always had more of a sarcastic kind of asshole-ish kind of humor. Like some people have had that knock on Peter that he's kind of a dick, and I do feel like that way, where I don't think Miles is as dickish. Every Spider-Man is a little dickish because that's just that character by nature, because he's a quipster.
Big ego.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, exactly. So I think they do a good job, because that's always been my worry of comic books. You get a lot more time. You can have a year full of issues, when even something like the MCU, can you make them feel different? I think this movie, obviously it's a lot different because Parker B is older, so you can make him different, and he's gone through a lot. But they did a good job of not just making him feel like, black Peter Parker, like to me,
he's definitely a distinct character,
Dominican Peter Parker. Like, they make him different, not just from, which sometimes, to be honest, comic books and other times they do make it feel like that. Like, lots of times with like Lady Thor, I don't feel there's much difference between her and Thor. It's just a lady, and comics have done that, so I hope it would transfer. It does in this movie. They make him a character I want to see more of. The video game's out. I think this is going to be a character now in the next few years that people, when he comes to the MCU or the big screen, people now will be excited. It's not just comic fans being like, when are we going to see Miles? I think now mainstream people, kids will be like, I want to see Miles in these real movies. And not this in the real movie, but live action movies, because those always looked as like a kind of a graduation sort of deal. And I think they do a good job. I like the origin of his suit where he's, spray painting. He's a very artistic type of guy, and that's how he gets it. So he doesn't make it. He just takes dead Peter's suit and just spray paints. And even like one of the spots is like still dripping red and whatnot.
Yeah, they kind of play off this, because obviously Peter's always kind of like a whiz kid, and you can always like hack into stuff.
Yeah.
And they kind of talk about Miles, and he's pretty smart, and he doesn't want to go to the school, but
he's getting perfect grades.
Yeah, but it feels different than just like this genius that is Peter Parker. Or it feels like he is a lot more creative and like artistic.
Yeah, well, with Peter, like, even though it didn't, it feels like Peter works towards being a genius. Where like Miles might be smarter than Peter, but it's almost like he doesn't want to be smarter, so he's not. Like, they're almost like the same level, because he could be so smart, but because he wants to hang out with his friends or be at the school where he feels more comfortable, he doesn't like accept being as smart or as intelligent as he would. But obviously, it's good in this movie because he's gonna have to hack and do some stuff. So you can't have a non-smart Spider-Man, because they're always gonna have to hack something,
Exactly.
So, but yeah, I thought he was a great character. I love the relationship with his parents. Love the relationship with his uncle. I thought they did a good job.
Yeah.
That moment when Kingpin kills him and they have their alleyway scene, kind of their Uncle Ben moment. That was done really well. And all around they just knocked everything out of the park for the most part. Like I said, I have a few little minor quibbles there, but with Miles, I think they did a good job, and they made him a character that, if you didn't know about him before, I think people will be excited and want to see more, not only
I'm
big screen, but in a sequel.
I'm super curious to see what Spider-Man is like a couple of years down the road with Gwen and Miles getting more of a highlight in these video games. And
look out, Tom Holland. They're coming for you.
You better look for it. You better have a backup plan.
Oh yeah.
It might be dancing again or something.
Dancing again. Do you have anything else to add on this?
Yeah, one more thing. I like the Stan Lee cameo. It's kind of this moment where everyone's kind of convening, going to Peter Parker's funeral, and so they stop at the costume store.
Yeah.
Everyone's picking up a Peter Parker, I should say Spider-Man costume.
One the same. They know that now.
Yeah, and Stan Lee is the cashier at the selling all the costumes.
Well, yeah, and it was almost a very timely thing. Is the first thing Stan Lee says, like, I'm really gonna miss him, and like I got a little lump in the collar, and then when he's just like Miles like, oh, can I return for this? He's like, oh, it all fits eventually, and then like pan over, no refunds or returns, and Stanley's just like smiling and and then when he does put on the suit, it's like up to his knees, and just a little fun humor like that. But yeah, that was a nice little cameo. And then I guess also we should talk about that quick end credit scene too. That was cool. Spider-Man 2099 was in there.
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac, there had been heard that he was gonna be in this movie, and he was, and that's fun for one, to set the future, and two, just what they did with it was a fun. They commented on the internet meme of the two Spider-Mans pointing at each other. Yeah. It's like a 30-second back and forth, and just really well done.
Yeah, I just discovered 2099 in the video game. It's blue. It's probably my second most used suit in that game. Love the look of that suit. So I'm super curious to see what they do with this character down the road, because obviously there's a lot of creative potential, and they had a lot of creative potential here, and they knocked it out of the park. So,
yeah. Anything else?
I think that's pretty much it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know where you can find our links, find our non-spoilers for all the other reviews we got. We got lots of stuff on the channel right now, so
a lot of Spider-Man content.
Oh yeah, tons of Spider-Man content, Spider-Man retrospective, the game review, the movies review. So thank you very much, and until next time, catch you on the web.